Should I leave my hood over the whole time? I just washed my hair so it's like flat. I'll leave the hood up. I did not like this book. I'm also slightly tipsy. We're drinking Hard Monster today. This is a peach one because my boyfriend hates the taste of peach, so I'm drinking those. This book is really bad. It's called Kiss the Villain by Rina Kent. I was not going to make a video because I thought that this was like a straight to Kindle Unlimited author. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And then I realized that this fucking book, first of all, Rina Kent is a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author. This book has special editions. It's sold in Barnes & Nobles. It's sold in Targets. It's sold in Walmarts. There's an ambulance. This fucking book is popular. This book has a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. 50,000 reviews. And it has a 4 out of 5. I hated this fucking book. This was my first Rina Kent. I'm thinking about possibly giving her another chance. Okay, the tags: romance fiction, contemporary romance, erotic literature, gay fiction. She only has 2 gay books, Kiss the Villain and then like Gods of Fury or something like that, which Gods of Fury is, I think that's what it's called, part of like a 5-book series. So I go, okay, let me read Kiss the Villain because there's supposed to be a second book out soon. It's the first book, it's a standalone. When you Google it, it says a dark, standalone romance novel. I start the book. Who the fuck are all of these people that I am not being introduced to? They're characters in the other books. She has written 30 books, and all of them, I am presuming, have the exact same characters. So I start this book that I'm solely reading because it has gay smut in it. And you want to know what? I want to understand. I start the book. Off the bat, she introduces like 5 different fucking characters, and I don't know who any of them are because they're characters from other books. So why would we introduce them? But this is supposed to be a standalone novel, so we should probably at least explain who these people are. I'm making my layout dark. When I googled this, it said that it was a dark enemies to lovers involving a law student and his professor. And I was like, you want to know what? I'll read it. Age gap. I like age gap, yowie. I'll read the age gap book. Nowhere was I ever told that this would be a fucking mafia book. So I'm annoyed. Off the bat, I start the book. They're like, here's 5 characters. We're not going to explain who any of them are. They're all annoying. You need to remember them. And also, they're all 20-year-old mafia bosses. No, sorry, they're mafia heirs. Because for some fucking reason, there's 3... I made notes. Author's note, kind of crazy. She says, if you're new to my books, you might not know that I write dark stories that can be intense, unsettling, and even disturbing. My characters and their journeys defy societal norms and aren't meant for everyone. The following paragraph contained content warnings, my cat is like trying to fucking drink this, and specific drinks that may spoil plot details. If you have no triggers, feel free to skip. Kiss the Villain includes themes of consensual non-con, dubcon, self-harm, violence, and mild homophobia. It also contains non-on-page mentions of suicide, rape, CSA, and domestic abuse. So, I knew what I was getting into. This blurb is so fucking annoying. Blurb. My darkness meets a darker soul. This reads like fucking My Immortal. I'm a golden boy. A genius law student. The heir to the Carson Empire. Who is the Carson Empire? What does this mean? And dutiful son. Or at least that's what it looks like from the outside. Deep inside, I have the urge to set the world on fire. I keep these impulses in check. rarely indulging in mayhem, until one night of debauchery backfires and I'm caught by a villain. I bury the entire ordeal with the rest of my skeletons. That is, until that night walks into my classroom in the form of my new professor, Caden Lockwood. Caden Lockwood, don't give your character the last name Lockwood, because every single fucking time that they said Caden Lockwood, I'm thinking about Flint Lockwood. I'm thinking about the scene in Cloud with a Chance of Meatballs where he goes, Flint Lockwood, that's what I'm thinking of. A criminal who's teaching criminal law. I can't expose what he's done without unmasking my secret life. What I can do, however, is force him to taste the poison he gave me. In the Clash of Titans, Caden and I break and crumble, and I'm starting to realize that this dangerous game may have no winners. This sets the tone of the book. Playlist. There's a playlist. Why wouldn't there be? It has Daddy Issues by the Neighborhood, of course. There is an Ethel Cain song in here, so I'll give her that. Birds of a Feather, Billie Eilish. There's Sail, AWOL Nation. Teacher's Pet by Nelly Martinez. There's The Summoning by Sleep Token. Not a big Sleep Token guy. I respect it, but And then you turn to the next page, and there's an art of the two main characters making out. Gareth is probably a good 3 to 4 inches shorter than Caden. Keep that in mind. So, chapter 1, Gareth, the worst name for a bottom I've ever heard. Why is his name that? And why do they call him Gary? But sometimes they call him Gaz. I think that's how I'm supposed to pronounce that, G-A-Z. How else would I pronounce that? This protagonist is so fucking insufferable. The only time that he is tolerable is when he's kind of like fucking with Caden, like after they've started dating. That is the only time that he's intolerable, or tolerable, because this is, and apparently all of her protagonists are like this. I didn't know, this was my first book by her. These sentences, so immediately off the bat, no one would expect the King's U, or TKU, college resident genius law student, to infiltrate the Serpent's mansion during one of their grand parties, or to target none other than the head of the Serpents, Julian Trev, the son of the leader of the Chicago Bravada. This book takes place in the UK. This book takes place in the United Kingdom. Julian is the son of the leader of the Chicago Bravada. I wrote down a couple other ones. So off the bat, we've got the Serpents, which are Chicago, but for some fucking reason they're in UK. Gareth hates women. So I seduced one of the girls Julian's been flirting with, pretending the book she was reading was interesting. It wasn't. Period. Oh, sorry, it wasn't. Comma. Just another piece of mind-numbing analytical bullshit written by a self-righteous idiot. And it got the combo going. That is one sentence. That's one sentence. That's a whole paragraph. Like, it's formatted like a paragraph, but it's one sentence. I was pretty sure she was Julian's girlfriend, and she was always hanging onto his arm and deep-throating him with her tongue around campus. But it didn't look that way when she had her foot on my crotch under the table in the library. Disgusting, comma. By the way, comma, don't ever put your duty shoes anywhere near me. He's a queen. He is a queen. He hates women. He's the worst kind of twink, and his name is Gareth. I do not like this man. I fucking hate him. I do not like the way that he talks about women. I noted this because, so the serpents wear the skeleton masks. But this man wears a neon mask, but I don't know what he is a part of at this point in the book. I don't know anything about the Carlson lineage, or why his last name matters, because why would I? He talks about himself a lot. He's perfect. His family loves him. His brother's a fuck up. His name is, I think, Killian, but they call him Kill because apparently he's Killua from Hunter x Hunter. I feel like calling your child Kill is automatically setting them up for failure. Like, if you call your kid Kill, I feel like that's asking for your kid to be psychologically unwell. But what do I know? This protagonist is really cringy. Um, the side riddled with urges. Oh, so he's talking about how every season is perfect. I like that none of them caught a whiff of this side of me, the side riddled with urges and voids, and a thirst so deep. Kid would look like a saint if they realized, except for Grandpa. Grandpa is different. So back to those urges, dash. The reason I'm wasting my time with these people, I highlighted Sabak with those urges, and I said, he's behind me, isn't he? Because that's the tone that this is written in. That's the tone that I'm reading it in. He drugs his buddy, even though I don't think that Julian has done anything wrong to him at all during this book. All of the main male characters are kind of written the exact same way, so I kind of started to get them confused. I don't remember Julian doing anything to him, at this point, at least. He drugs him. And then he says, he breaks into the party. He introduces his cousin Nikolai for some reason. Nikolai's not a part of this yet, but he's saying he's in the party. He's gonna drug him. Pity I couldn't slip my bow in here. He looks so cute with an arrow between his eyes and blood dripping down his face. What a missed opportunity. At this point, Gareth isn't gay. So the fact that he's calling a dude cute is kind of like, I thought, like, anyways, I wrote guy from UK Mafia having a bow and arrow is crazy. But I guess do they have guns over there? Do members of the United Kingdom Mafia carry a bow and arrow? They carry umbrellas and just beat the shit out of each other. So he's still at this party. His plan is... Oh, he talks about how good he is in bed. I'm known to be a good fuck with a huge dick who eats girls out until they come. Fantastic, brother. I'm so glad. He's so fucking insufferable, dude, and we're only on, like, chapter 3 at this point. He's kind of talking about how his brother is unstable and how his dad blames himself for his brother being unstable. But, like, you are part of a mafia family, so I do feel like instability just kind of comes with the gig. The goal is he's gonna drug Julian, and then he is gonna put lube that looks like cum, maybe fuck sauce, if we're gonna get specific. I don't really know. But he's gonna put viscous white colored lube on him to humiliate him and take photos and like be like, haha, Julian's gay, even though his brother is openly gay. His brother's openly something. So, and then he talks about how he's a first year law student who's studying the law to manipulate it. But his dad's side of the family owns the largest and most successful law firms in the United States, Carson & Carson. Why are we in Europe? Why are we in Europe other than the author being from Europe? Because I think Rina is from Europe. I googled it. And then Julian's out in bed, and he comes in, and he says, "Was he always this tall? I know he's big, like the brute Nikolai, and they often go at each other in the fight club, but I thought he was closer to my 6'3" than Nikolai's 6'4". In the cover art in the beginning of the book, Caden looks 2 to 4 inches taller than Gareth. If Gareth is 6'3", that means Caden is 6'5" at the least. At the least. That's not your man. That's a fucking Nephilim. So, he's like trying to pull this prank on Julian to publicly humiliate him. And he realizes that there's somebody else. It's not Julian laying on the bed, passed out. It's another dude. Gareth is being very fucking creepy and like cutting his like shirt off and shit, cause he's fucked up. And then he realizes that the tattoos are wrong because they have masks on, remember. The tattoos are wrong, so he actually isn't trying to prank Julian. There's a different guy. The different guy is Caden. Oh, we just made it to chapter 2. He starts waxing poetic again about how he's wearing a mask and nobody really knows him because he's so dark and edgy. And welcome to his twisted mind. And basically, Caden thinks that Gareth's goal is to SA Julian. So he is clearly mad. I don't even actually think that this book ever explains why Caden did this, like why Caden was there and was watching so closely. But he's mad for obvious reasons. Gareth never fucking like, you've got it all wrong. This is my buddy, and I'm homophobic. He just kind of like yells at him. And then he starts talking about, so Caden makes Gareth take his mask off, and there's a whole fucking paragraph, multiple paragraphs, where he goes, unmasking, period, showing my beautifully proportionate face, shiny blonde hair, and enchanting green eyes, as many do describe them. I've been called the personification of Prince Charming, with my classically handsome face. He's so fucking annoying. Caden says, such a pretty face for a grotesque personality. Gareth thinks, grotesque? Did this motherfucking piece of shit call me grotesque? Me? The best person I know? So he's an idiot. He is stupid. Caden gets really mad that Gareth was going to SA Julian, even though that, well, you could argue that in and of itself was, but Caden kind of like spins it and is basically like, so if you were going to do this to him, then I'm going to do this to you. This characterization is so fucking bad. There are so many points in this book. Also, this is like never really, like, they get in a relationship and this isn't brought up. The fact that their first encounter was SA. It's just kind of like swept under the rug, I guess. Why would anybody care? Okay, so scene's over. We find out from Killian, which is Gareth's brother. He goes, do you know if Julian is into guys? Killian brings up a guy named Vaughn, who is apparently the New York Bravada Pacan's son. I said, again, why is this book set in the UK? But apparently Vaughn didn't come with them. Yeah, he stayed in New York, even though that Nikolai and some man named Jeremy, who we haven't met Nikolai or Jeremy yet, but they're in different books. I know that. That's why they're here. There's so much just like shit in this, because Julian is the reason Vaughn didn't want to study here in the first place. He never fights Vaughn. He only fights Killian, Jeremy, or Nikolai. We haven't met a Vaughn. We haven't met a Jeremy. We haven't met a Jeremy. We haven't met a Nikolai. These are just people that I'm supposed to keep track of despite knowing nothing about them, which is cool. Okay, so, and then we find out that the Chicago and the New York Bravada are both the two most notorious Russian mafia branches. But I have to ask, why are all these Russians in the United Kingdom? And why are they all buddy-buddy if they're different parts of the mafia? Like, wouldn't... I don't know, man. Oh, but Gareth's mom is a Russian mafia princess. In case you didn't know that. So, Nikolai Okay, so his mom, Gareth's mom, is a Russian mafia princess, but she separated from the organization long before I was born. Aunt Ra and her husband, however, are two of the leaders. That gives Nikolai, like Jeremy and Vaughn, a legacy to continue his parents' shoes to fill. Where does Jeremy come into this? Because we meet Jeremy now. This is so fucking boring. My cousin Nikolai wraps an arm around Jeremy's shoulders as they walk to campus. He's the heathens leader. Heathens are different than serpents. So Jeremy is the heathens leader, and he's the son of the New York Bravada strategist. But I thought that the heathens the New York Bravada, and the serpents the Chicago Bravada. And it just says, Kill and I are just along for the ride, a revival of our distant Russian roots. So they're not in the mafia. And then there's an initiation. This guy, the main character, Gareth. Okay, so I said the way that Rina Kent writes women in this book is genuinely disgusting. Because it is. There isn't a single female character in this book that isn't a mother that isn't treated like shit. All of the women are characters. Nobody actually talks like this. They all exist for Gareth to be disgusted by. That is the vibe that I get from this book. At this point, Gareth, he goes to class. He finds out that the new professor is Caden Lockwood, Flint Lockwood, if you will. And they recognize each other immediately. And all the girls that wanted to fuck Gareth also now want to fuck Caden, because these men are hot, obviously. The dialogue between him and his professor is kind of insane. I feel like, I don't know if Rina Kent ever went to college. Part of me is, well, maybe college is different in the UK. Maybe in the UK you just like treat your professor, you talk to your professor like this in front of everybody and nobody cares. So Caden essayed Carson, and now for a fun little group project, he is making Carson, because this is law school, he is making Carson argue to defend a rapist as a class project in front of their whole class, which feels really fucked up. And I knew that this was like dark romance, and don't get me wrong, like I was a fan of both. Like I read fucking Killing Stalking, like I'm not a prude. But this book is so needlessly cruel for no reason. At times, at this point, I kind of started to get really pissed, so I have no more annotations for you. But the book goes on. It's like 500 pages, I think. Yeah, it's 500 pages, at least according to my Kindle Unlimited. The book is like 500 pages. They continue almost like a cat and mouse kind of thing, where Gareth isn't gay, but he is clearly gay. Caden really doesn't care, but Gareth does. Eventually, their relationship comes out, and Gareth is kidnapped. There's also, they find out that Caden is a part of the mafia, but a different mafia, a competing mafia, if you will. I know nothing about the mafia. Nothing. I actually wouldn't have read this if I knew it was a mafia romance, because I think that mafia romance is kind of obnoxious, which is probably part of the reason why I didn't like this. And also, I thought overall that the characterization was, I didn't like Gareth, I didn't like Caden, and they are the two male main characters. I actually couldn't stand either of them. I would have DNF'd it, but it pissed me off so bad I needed to keep going so that I could bitch about it. This characterization, didn't like. The story, I thought that the story was kind of boring. It is a smut novel, so smut novels are kind of like horror movies. Like, there's an old video of Lee Winnell, who was the writer of Saw, and he's basically talking about how when you make a good horror movie, you know, the goal is to have good kills, but also to have good scenes in between so that the people are excited for the kills. I kind of feel that way about spot novels. Like, the smutty chapters are basically the kills, but you also have to have good scenes in between. The majority of the non-smut chapters in this novel are not rememberable at all. It's just them bickering back and forth and fighting. He's like chilling. Gareth is chilling in Caden's apartment, and then like Caden's mom show up, and he's like, "That's just my student." And it's like, why you as like a 33-year-old man shouldn't have your 21-year-old student just like chilling in your apartment? That would raise a red flag for a normal human being. But the moms are like, okay, cool. So I didn't fuck with the plot. I thought the writing was really boring. Maybe not boring. Maybe shallow but obnoxious. I thought the writing, the book is written in first person, so the majority of the writing is Gareth's internal dialogue, but Gareth is fucking annoying. So I don't know if I don't like Rena Kent's writing or if I just hate Gareth with all of my being. Either way, I didn't fuck with the writing. I didn't really like anything about this book. The only thing that I liked about this book was I kind of like hate read it, if you know what I mean. Like, it was like a train, like a car accident. Like, I was like, I need to finish this because I hate this. But yeah, I rarely do I read an MM book written by a woman and genuinely feel like there's some kind of like weird fetishization going on. Like, usually I'm just kind of like, meh. Like, this one, and maybe it was just because of like the feminization in it that I didn't like it. It borderline like, and like I'm not a prude. Like, context. I was really into Hannibal. I read Killing Stalking, you know, the whole 9 yards. I just didn't feel good reading this. I felt, and like, I was looking at the fandom because I was like, who is this for? Like, who is this for? And I realized that the only people who like really, really like this book are straight women who like Rena Kent. And I just can't believe that, like, the way that Rena Kent writes women in this book is so terrible. She is so needlessly cruel to the female characters in this book. She treats them like they're blow-up dolls. Like, and I understand that that's like Gareth as a character, but you can make a piece of shit main character, but also have women that are like three-dimensional. None of these characters are like, none of them feel like human beings. I don't know, and I had a really hard time with this one because, like, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but like, there was nothing appealing about this book. It was genuinely like, and I technically read this in 2025. It's currently 2026. This was probably my least favorite book that I read in all of 2025. I did not like it at all. I'm thinking about giving Rena Kent another chance with, I think it's called Gods of Fury. It's her other MM one. Yeah, it's about Brandon and Nikolai. We'll see. I thought this was crazy. And then I Googled it because I thought it was just a Kindle Unlimited. And I found out that she was a best-selling author and it was a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. Are you kidding? Anyways, I'm gonna head out. I've heard that her, like she attacks people for criticizing her. So we'll see. But you have a nice night, and goodbye.